The Airforcetimes released this killer headline:
Mhm.
Black Jews enlisted likelier to face punishment than white airmen. You can already tell where this is going just by reading the headline. So here's the article, because I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to read with us, folks. That let's zoom it in a little bit. There we go. Now you can read with me. Black men in the Air Force junior enlisted ranks are 86% more likely than their white counterparts to face non-judicial punishment or court-martial. So NJPs, for those of you who don't know, that's the condensed term there. NJPs are court-martials, according to a new study that explores racial disparities in the service justice system. There are racial disparities that I did not know existed.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So, as we continue, why their experience diverges can be a tricky pinpoint. I wonder, because it's obviously going to be racism, right? Because like that's what it always hands on, is racism. The federally funded think tank Rand Corp said in April 10th report, the airman job, their armed forces qualification test score, and where they called home can all play a role in who might face criminal charges or potential punishment. In most cases, researchers couldn't explain why black airmen would wind up in more trouble more often than the peers of other races, meaning that the difference likely boils down to unfair treatment. Yeah, sure, that's what that means. It must be unfair because they are more likely to be punished for things they possibly have done. So it must be racism.
Okay, I mean, when I was in the military, I was in an occupational skill occupation that there wasn't a lot of black people in it. So I can't really, I really can't speak on black people getting unfair treatment, because it never happened. Everything is situation based, and like I said earlier, every commander across the military, including the Air Force, every commander is going to give out that non-judicial punishment as they see fit. One may be a little more lenient. I've seen commanders that throw the whole book at them. You know what I mean? So it's not unfair treatment. There are things that led up, as you know, that leads up to that NJP, or that that UCMJ action. It's patterns. We don't just, unless it's something huge like a DUI or drug, popping hot on a drug test or something like that.
Drug-related events.
Drug-related, that's like instant. Usually that's boom, do the paperwork, they're done.
You're getting ninja punched real hard.
But a lot of times with these smaller offenses, it builds up. We keep a record of it, and then it builds up. So if they're saying a black soldier is getting, or airman is getting harsher punishment than their counterparts, what happened before that punishment was given? Because they're going to look at everything. They look at it all when they give them that punishment. If this guy, the black kid, let's say, in their world, if the black kid that was multiple offenders was given multiple chances, and they look at his packet and they go down the list of dates and everything else, then they look at him and say, well, you're a problem child, or vice versa. You're a problem child. We're going to throw the whole book at you. You get a young white kid who's done good, or whatever race, hasn't been a problem, messed up, his punishment's going to be less, even though it's the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. I mean, that's especially what I've seen. And like in my unit in the Marine Corps, like it was like what, 40% white, 40% Hispanic, and like 10% everybody else, right?
Yeah,
there wasn't much differentiation there. So the majority of people in the unit were of various races, but there was a heavier set of like Hispanic and white being in the Marine Corps, especially in the infantry. Like that's just the way it was. We only had one black dude in my mortar unit. One. Only one. There was only one of them. But if you went to admin, there were a lot.
All of them.
If you went to supply, there were a lot.
All of them. Commo. All of them, just about. And it was the same way in the Army, man. I mean, in our infantry battalions, you could make a half of a platoon out of all the black dudes in a battalion sometimes. That's, think about how big a battalion is. Maybe a platoon. You could probably build a platoon out of them. So, yeah, it's not many of us black people in the infantry.
Yeah.
When you start going into the other MOSs, yes, you see a lot more. But again, what led up to it being unfair? What do you consider unfair? Because I think the reporting is they just looked at the same punishment that both of
Yeah.
these soldiers or airmen committed, and one race got a harsher punishment than the other, but they didn't look at everything else that led up to that punishment, which
Yeah,
they count.
multiple
Yeah.
offenses, whatever else, like a history of things. That's the interesting part. So the Air Force funded this report in the latest in a growing body of work that has sought to uncover and explain racial disparities across the military, as well as within the justice system, including the Air Force Inspector General report and others that are conducted after George Floyd's death in 2022. So, yeah, this is what it's really about, the George Floyd thing. And spark protests, yada yada. Okay, so the studies found that black airmen. I like how they do this. They do this like the study found that black airmen, comma, other minorities and women face consistent hurdles in their careers that have limited their opportunities to progress and hurt their sense of belonging in uniform. So everything here is DEI, right? That's what this is about, is DEI. Not if force readiness, not if like replacing equipment that's broken or rolling in, spending on units or even sexual assault. We're going to be focusing consistently on DEI. Let's just go with that. Rand's new work attempts to take a deeper look into the problem, focusing on airmen of the ranks of E1 through E4. Lower enlisted.
And is going to be consistently pathetic. You know, we have bigger problems out here in the world, and we're sitting here focused on DEI, even though they're not going to call it that. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's wokeism transitioning to the military, which are trying to weaken the military, so the military would be easier to defeat. These inspector general idiots had nothing better to do but to search for something. They probably got one complaint. And they did a census report or whatever that report's called. You know, climate report, command climate report. They did the command climate report, and a bunch of disgruntled individuals were on there just complaining, because you know that's what a command climate report is. A lot of times it's just a bunch of people going down there. They just complain because they're disgruntled. They're disgruntled individuals, and then they go, oh, look, we have a problem. Let's look at each individual's track record, their physical fitness, their marksmanship, their uniform, everything that's in that counseling packet. And then you determine if they're being targeted or are they just horrible airmen that shouldn't even be in uniform.
Which we've seen those. I mean, nobody generally, unless there is a douchebag in the senior enlisted or elsewhere,
and they have
most people deserve the ninja punches they get. I'm just gonna be honest and say that, right. I know a lot of people feel they were unjustified, but if you get ninja punched, it's usually for a good reason, and it's usually because it's alcohol related. Let's be honest. Most of them are alcohol related.
Alcohol or drug, those are the biggest ones.
Some Marine got drunk on a weekend, went to Bakersfield, and started kicking in doors and causing a bunch of havoc. That's more than likely what happened. Or they got drunk and they got caught at the base gates and were arrested. That's more than likely what happened. Okay, and so it's.
You know, I was a platoon sergeant, man. When I was a platoon sergeant, I really, you know, UCMJ was the very last straw for me. But I did everything in my power to keep people from having to go through that process of losing money, losing time with their family. It already sucked enough that we was in the field all the time. It already sucked enough that we was there 16, 17, 18 hours a day sometimes. You know, so I always try to do everything within my power to help lower the amount of punishment. But I had this soldier when I took over the platoon in Fort Bliss. They moved me from one platoon. Then I got moved to another platoon to be the platoon sergeant. And this guy was just trash, man. You know, you ever just see a soldier, you just want to just take him out back and put him in a ditch somewhere? That was this guy.
There are tons of trash people.
Yeah, just trash. And we got back from a training exercise, and he was just a problem child. So he decided not to come and work. He went AWOL. His mom turned him in. We found him in Vegas, brought him back. And then we were like, no. He left for Vegas. His mom called us, told us he was in Vegas. His mom calls me because I was platoon sergeant. She said he's at the USO in Vegas. So
Mm.
I called the police department in Vegas. They went to the USO and saw him there. They was like, well, we can't do anything unless he's counted as AWOL. He wasn't counted as AWOL yet. So I guess he saw that the cops saw him. He gets up, takes off outside the airport, steals one of the maintenance trucks at the airport, and is driving down the strip. This is a true story. He's driving down the
Oh
strip while
no.
on Snapchat, filming it. Everybody back at the unit is watching it. Gets caught, gets arrested. Then my guys go there and pick him up. Two of my
Mm.
squad leaders go there and pick him up, bring him back. They stop at the front gate of the base. They go, give me your ID. He hands him his ID. They go, get out. Kicked him out of the vehicle right there in front of the base. We had already chaptered him out.
He was already done.
Yeah, we already chaptered him out. We had all this stuff turned in. He didn't have to be there. We just said, this guy needs to go. They got him out. They picked him up, brought him back to El Paso, and dropped him off at the front gate. He couldn't even enter.
But the question is, Michael, was he black?
No, he's a little white kid.
Yeah. See, it's not always the black dudes. See what I mean? Like, this is what I'm talking about. Anyway, so here's the report's findings. I wanted to get this before we move on to the next thing. Overall, Article 15's and court-martial referrals were 71% more likely for black junior enlisted airmen, male or female, when compared to white airmen. As you gave an example of a perfectly good example of a white man being a total douchebag and getting kicked out. These actions were 27% more likely for American Indian and Native Alaskan airmen, 8% more likely for Hispanic American airmen, and equally likely for Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, and less likely for Asian airmen and their white counterparts. So here's the narrative right there. The white adjacent and the white are less likely.
Okay. How many white adjacent were in your unit? I can't.
God,
Maybe
there's
one.
like a handful, more than okay. There was more.
I could say maybe two.
More than our black individuals that were in my unit, because like I can only count maybe like 5 or 6 that were in my infantry unit, but there were more than a handful of Asian and Pacific Islanders if we count them all together. Like we had Samoans, we had Hawaiians, we had some others in there, but Asian like East Asian, like not more than black but less than Hispanic. I would say it like that.
Yeah, the numbers are low. Again, they would have to go back to counter this claim. All those people that said that they get harsher punishment, that are complaining about their punishment, are probably children anyway. So what I would have done, all right, we're going to pull your counseling packet. We're going to look at your track record. Then we're going to pull this guy's counseling packet and look at this track record. Well, young black man, how come your counseling packet's this thick and this guy's packet's this thick, even though he got punished too, but your packet's this thick?
I would also bet you that Asian airmen are even less likely than white airmen to be in trouble.
Yep, that's true.
And that just comes down to parenting. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
it's there. They won't mention that, but I think these are the least likely to be in trouble. The least likely. There might be some outliers, but the least likely probably be these. These are not going to be your problem children. It's not going to be the Asian airmen. I would just guarantee it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because especially for airmen, because you have to be smart to get in the first place, right? So we're talking about, in the upper echelons of the Asian community, they're probably doing all right.
That's debatable. You ain't got to be smart to be in the Air Force.
Saying, like we're talking in generalities here. That's probably true.
I would say, I would say that infantrymen, this is from my experience, were some of the smartest dudes in the Army. Any type of combat infantry or any type of combat MOS. I'm just not going to say infantry. I'm speaking infantry because I was an infantryman for a very long time. Mm. Some of the smartest dudes I've ever met, man. And people always talk about how infantrymen are dumb. No, they're not. No, some of those guys got the highest GT you can get. They just want to be an infantryman and not be a little punk.
Those are the guys that wanted to do that job, not that they were forced to do that job. They wanted that job. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
I wasn't forced. I volunteered to be an infantryman too.
Yeah, same here. I signed up for it too.
Yep.
So black airmen referred to court-martial are less likely to be convicted than their white counterparts and face lower sentences depending on their convictions. There was no racial difference in punishment doled out for those issued in Article 15. 1/5 of disparities among Article 15 and court-martial referrals between black and white airmen could be explained in racial differences in career fields and other variables that might foreshadow offense rates, including their home of record, and armed forces qualification tests.
Oh, wait, didn't we just say that
Look at that.
earlier?
Yeah, we
Look
did
at
just say
that.
that. Yeah, yeah. And 4/5 of the disparities could not be explained by available data. Researchers noted that while some cases lack definitive explanation, there are consistent with the situations that disparate treatment may be at least partly responsible.
So why'd they even put out the article if
I
they
know,
can't,
right? This is like,
they can't even
basically it's just the DEI report. That's
yeah,
what it is.
they can't confirm any of this is true. Because again, when they feel that those are based off command climate surveys, which the inspector general usually controls. Disgruntled employees are going to put disgruntled stuff on there. And especially in the climate we
Yep.
live in, the social climate we live in now, which has affected the military, anybody who's black or a minority is going to claim that somebody, blah, blah, blah. I did almost 22 years in the Army, man. I've never had a racial anything towards me in a
Yeah.
predominantly white field.
Mhm.
Predominantly. I've never had nobody hold me back. I've never had nobody keep me from promotion. I've never had nobody try to stop me. I was an E7. I got out. I should have stayed in, obviously, but I
Mhm.
got out, but I still made it to a senior rank. And I have friends who are like me, look like me, who sergeant majors, command sergeant majors. They made it up, colonels, full bearer colonels. So it's all based off the lower enlisted. They said it ranks 1 through 4. And
Mhm.
usually between those ranks are usually very disgruntled. Very disgruntled.
Generally speaking, yeah, they're very,
Yeah.
very disgruntled individuals. I will
So
admit
and
that.
throw that out, bump that. Don't believe that stupid thing they did.
But it's just the point that they wasted taxpayers' money on doing this report in the first place.
Yeah, it's to cause a divide, man. Everything is
Yeah, it's like,
strategic.
why did you need to specifically focus on that instead of, hey, maybe why are they causing all these issues? Why are we having more Article 15s and court
Mhm.
martials? Like, why is there a problem in the ranks that we need to be addressing, which they would never do? Because why would they?
Yep.
Situation like we're fine. We're just gonna keep doing what we're doing, and we're just gonna keep pushing the things that we're pushing right now, which is apparently not force readiness.
Yeah. It's
Who
woke
cares about
readiness.
that?
We don't
Yeah.
care about force readiness. We care about woke readiness.
Who cares if we can make an amphibious landing in a Pacific climate as long as we know which gender they are?
Yes. As long as we
As
have the
long as we know.
right amount of each race holding positions of authority. Doesn't matter if they're qualified. Just put that, see that black
Right.
guy right there? Make him a colonel.
Mm.
But sir, we don't know
Yeah.
anything about him. Doesn't matter. DEI. We gotta meet the quota, man. We gotta meet the quota.
We gotta make the quotas.